Hello guys, welcome to another video. Today I would like to discuss about Delta Live Tables in Databricks. Delta Live Tables is a feature or a framework in Databricks which is used to create an ETL pipelines. The ETL pipeline sources can be streaming or a batch or a file, anything. If you have a files, continuous flow of files, and if you want to read them, you can use Delta Live Tables with autoloader. If you have non-streaming data also, like if you have data in some tables or if you have data in some different RDBMS sources, we can connect to those, or with unity catalog tables or as well, or with delta tables, any kind of sources we can use in delta live tables. The target tables which are created while processing in the delta live tables are of three types. It can either create a streaming table if you have a streaming source, and if the source is streaming like continuous files or some Kafka topic, it creates a streaming table. Or if it has some kind of aggregation operations, then it creates a materialized view table. Even if it is a non-streaming source, if you are reading a static table also, it creates a materialized view only. And if you want to create any views, you can just give view here and creates a view. Okay, these are the three types of tables which we can create in delta live tables. So I mean, to how do we create a table? Do we create it manually at first before starting the pipeline? No, it creates table automatically based on this data frame we return. For suppose if you take an example here, I have a method named baby new raw where I am reading from a volume the files. So I'm reading it from a file and I'm just renaming it. I'm returning the data frame. So whatever the columns it has, whatever the data types this data frame has, with those details it creates a table named baby new raw. If I don't want to give the method name as a table name, I can give either name whatever I want here. That also works just with the name. So that's how we create the names, but we have multiple options which we can provide here. If you see, to create the table name, I mean, to tell to the framework that's a delta live table, we have to declare at the rate DLT table. That's first option. If you want to give any comments, you can give. And if you want to exclude any columns from the data frame which you are reading, see here I am reading from dlt.read.baby new names. Baby new names is a DLT table which is created above. So I don't want this column and I don't want not nulls from the first name as well. So I can give at the dlt.accept. And also if I want to fail the like in the RDBMS tables we have the constraint as check, right? So that kind of constraints we can add here as well. So if the valid count is not greater than 0, then my pipeline will fail. That's what I mentioned here. And we have many more constraints which we can go and I'll just show you. And we have two options, guys. We can create delta live tables using SQL and as well as Python. It supports only two, it does not support Scala or others. See, we have these many options which we can fail. If you want to drop, instead of failing the pipeline, if you want to drop, then this. So these are the multiple options which we have. See, this is how we create a table. So the taxi raw will be a view here. This is how we create a raw, sorry. And this will be a table. If I don't want the name of the method as a table name, then I can give this, which I have told before. So we have multiple options. You can refer to the documentation as well. Now let's go and see the code. If you see, what is the ETL now let's go and see the code and let's see what is the ETL I am doing here. Okay, I'm just trying to extract the data from a volume just using Spark, and I've just renamed one column name and I'm returning a data frame inside the method. We don't have to call this method. As you have declared at the rate dlt.table here, it gets called automatically. We don't have, here declaring and calling is same, unlike normal Python language or any language where we declare a method and we call a method. Here both are same. We can just declare it and it gets called because we have mentioned this decorator here. Okay. So it returns this data frame and whatever the columns and the data types being present in this, with that the table gets created with the name baby new names. And here I am creating another data table and I have given with some constraints which I have explained before, and I am just renaming another column name and I am selecting only the required. So this baby names prepared will have only these three columns, that's it. And if you see here, here I'm using the spark.read, but here I'm using dlt.read because I already created a delta life table and I'm reading from that delta life table, data from that. So if you want to read from a delta life table, you have to use dlt.read. And finally, I'm just reading from another delta life table, which is here, which is this one, baby names prepared, and I'm just doing from filter by, group by, some aggregation and all. So this will create a table named top baby names noted down, because I did not give any name specifically. The method name will be the table name, and it will be the materialized view because it has some aggregation operations. So now let's go and check. See, this is a notebook. Inside the notebook, we have written the code, which is fine. But how do we trigger this notebook? In the Delta Live tables, the cluster provisioning and everything is automatic. We don't have to create a cluster. Let's go and check that how we do it. So we have to go to workflows. Here, Delta Live tables. Create a pipeline. Pipeline name I would like to name as YouTube. And here on the product edition we have three options, and if you select the core, it supports only the basic DLT, like just streaming the data and writing into somewhere. If you select pro, it supports the basic ELT plus CDC, change data capture as well. We will see the CDC in the next video. And if you select advanced, it supports CDC, the whatever the basic, whatever the core and pro supports, along with that the constraints which we give, right? At the rate dlt dot except all those constraints were also supported. So let's select advanced, and the trigger type, if you want to trigger manually at a specific time, you can go trigger, and if you want to run it continuously for streaming jobs, we can select this. And we have to select the notebook. This one. I want to go with Unity catalog. I don't want the legacy Hive Metastore. So I mean, what happens is the target tables which we have mentioned at the rate DLT gets created under Unity catalog if you are select here. So I have one catalog and I have the schema here. Cluster policy none, and I'll give only one, which is because I don't have any complex job. I'm just selecting the basic worker types, create. That's it. So this is very easy. So we have created a pipeline. We have attached the notebook underneath to this pipeline. And if you want to, in production, we have to select the production option. In development, we can select the development option. The difference between both is, if you select the development, once you start the job and once the job is completed, the development option is, in case if the development option is selected, the cluster will be on for even some more time. It doesn't for 5 to 10 minutes. It will be, the DLT cluster will be in the on state only. If you go to the production, immediately once the job is stopped, once the pipeline ran, the cluster will be stopped. That's the only difference between both. And if you click on settings, it will go to the same page what we have previously. That's it. So if you want to schedule, you can schedule whenever you want it, because we have triggered the scheduled option. We have selected the scheduled option, not the continuous, while creating the pipeline. And we have tagged this notebook so and so, and you can just start. And the pipeline gets, it tries to create the resources. It does all the compilation checks and then it runs it. For creating resources, it takes some time for the first time. So guys, if you see, it was waiting for the resources. It has created the resources. It has done the compilation, which is the initializing phase, and now it's triggering the pipeline. So while triggering the pipeline, this is how we get it. If you see, we have three tables. One table is dependent on other. So this table got created. Now it went to the second table and it goes to the third table. All are materialized views only, it has created by default. It did not create any streaming table, it did not create any normal view. It has created only materialized views, because one is that the source of this table is not a streaming source. So only if the source is a streaming source, if we have the spark.read stream, then it creates a streaming table, which I will show in the next video. If it does not have the streaming source, then it by default creates a materialized views. Even if we and either if we have this kind of aggregation operations also, it creates a materialized views only. That's it. So now the pipeline ran successfully and we have no issues. We can, these are all the details. And guys, here we have two options. One is start, one is refresh all, another is validate. Validate, if you click, it just validates everything, but it will not create any targets. And full refresh all, if you select, every time it truncates the existing delta life tables and creates a new table. If you click on start, it will just keep on appending the data to the existing delta life tables. The delta life tables can be materialized views, streaming tables, or views. That's it. Now let's go and check what else we have. Okay, now let's go to catalog and check whether these all are created. I've given this catalog, this schema, and if I click on tables, yes, we have all these tables being created. Now guys, we have seen how to create an ETL pipeline, delta live tables pipeline using Python. So now let's see the same with SQL. Like it supports both the languages, SQL and Python. We can do the same stuff with SQL. Let me go ahead and explain you the notebook first. What I have, the same thing which I have done before in Python, I just did it in SQL. If you see here, we give at the rate dlt dot table over there, right? Here we have to give create or replace live table and the table name. So this will become a delta live table, and just I'm renaming the column and I'm just selecting the columns I want from the CSV file directly. There I have done spark.read.csv, and again if you see another live table based upon the above table, this table, the second live table is based on this table. If you see, I'm using live dot here, but in the in the Python we use dlt dot the table name. If you go to the Python, what we have seen is dlt dot dlt dot read of table name in the Python. So there's small variation in the syntax, that's it. And I'm just writing the logic I want, and I'm just writing the logic I want in SQL. That's it. The major differences are while creating, here we have to give create a refresh live table. It will become a materialized table only. However, it won't be a view because we did not create a view. If you want to create a view, we have to mention view here. It will be materialized table. And if you are reading a streaming source, it will become a streaming table by default. But we are not reading any streaming source, right? So that's it. Let's go and edit the same old pipeline with this notebook. Let's tag this notebook to that same old pipeline. This is my pipeline. I'll go to settings. I'll just select this. Instead of Python, I'm just selecting this. And also one more thing guys, you can add multiple notebooks here, whatever you want. So that we can create a multiple complex ETL as well. Like for the first so and so notebook runs, whatever is there in that notebook executes, then the other notebook, then the other notebook. If you select another notebook, this gets enabled. You can add multiple notebooks and creates a graph like how we have it here. So I just selected the SQL one because let's test it in SQL. That's it. And I can just go ahead and click on start. I mean, resource gets created and it gets initialized. I mean, it does all the validations, syntax errors, if there are anything, it throws up here. Now guys, the resources have been allocated. It's initializing. It will be doing all the compilation now, and if it does not face any syntax errors, it will go to the next phase. I mean, it triggers the code now, which is also done. Now it is setting up the tables. That's it. The first one is everything is a materialized view here because everything is a static table load only. We didn't do any streaming or we did not create any views here. And if you see, the same thing is being done. That's it. So everything is done. That's it guys. If you see, those tables got created here. If you see the baby names, everything underscore SQL are the tables which got created now. That's it. Thank you all.